We've all been told that discipline is a core quality in successful people. But I don't know about you, discipline has always been a big question mark for me because in some aspects I have it and in others I'm absolutely hopeless. Therefore, I decided to do some investigation into what goes into building discipline. At the end of the video, I'm going to go over a source of energy that we can all use to push us into action. Our brains tend to run a cost-benefit analysis on practically everything that we do. So when we set goals, it tries to estimate what are the chances that we're going to actualize it. Given that our brains are always present and taking on information depending on what we do, they have a track record of how we tend to perform. Therefore, depending on our track record, our brain could estimate that the chances of us actualizing that goal are quite low. Therefore, may as well not do anything about it and stay where we're at. This might sound like our brains are trying to sabotage us, but in evolutionary terms, they're actually looking out for us. They're trying to conserve energy. However, we all make decisions such as brushing our teeth when we don't feel like doing them, or not eating the 5th donut because we know that's bad for us. Therefore, not all pleasure is irresistible, nor is every discomfort intolerable. We can study addicts who go sober to gain an understanding of how to go from extreme pleasures towards discomfort. If you pay attention to their story, you'll find that they all have one thing in common. They have a competing interest. They usually have a clear vision for their future, a light at the end of the tunnel that they're looking towards, whether it is being a good member for their society or providing for their family, or even if it is that they're committing their lives to religion. Therefore, before establishing discipline, we need a vision that connects with us so deeply that moving towards it provides us with more fulfillment than hedonic pleasures. Now let's get into how we can establish a competing interest. 1. The source cannot be external. Discipline won't work in the long term if our goal that we've chosen is fueled by outside expectations or social norms. Look out for the word should when you're describing the goal to yourself. Should usually identifies external desires. Establishing discipline around these shoulds means that you're only becoming disciplined for somebody else, whether it is your family, friends, or society. This long term can lead to burnout, or even worse, it can lead you to end up in a place that runs contrary to your values and beliefs. 2. Define what you want. Ask yourself, like you would a friend, what do you want? If you can't come up with an answer for that, this could be a sign that you're overwhelmed by external stimuli and you have lost touch with your internal desires. This could mean that you've practically been sleepwalking through life, letting the outside world tell you what you want. To help guide you to figure out what you want, you could ask yourself, what do you want to change? If you automatically come up with an answer to this question, then great. Jot that down, try to break it down into smaller steps that you can take on the regular, and then plan it out on your days or weeks and commit to making an improvement to it over the long run. However, answering this question might not be as straightforward as you thought, and you might not come up with something because change is uncomfortable. If this is you, we can move on to the next question, which is, do you want to change? If the answer to this is a yes, great, because this means we have something that we can build upon. Even though that you don't want to change right now, you wish that you wanted to change. Now this means that we have finally got a wish, a desire that is only influenced by your internal state. By figuring out what you want to change, you'll have some solid footing from which that you can start building upon and moving forward. If the previous questions prompt you to come up with a goal that makes sense to you, we can move on to the next step, which is starting small and giving it time. Break the goal down into tiny bite-sized chunks. So for example, if your goal is to improve your physical fitness, can you dedicate 15 minutes a day to do some sort of exercise that raises your heart rate? Or if you're trying to lose weight, can you commit to not drinking any soft drinks for, let's say, a week? Or if your goal is to improve your sleep schedule, can you commit to not hitting the snooze button for like 3 days? There are no limitations on what you can do, but what makes it a bit easier is to choose one goal and stick to it for a good period of time to prove to yourself that you can be consistent. You would be surprised how much 3 to 5 days of consistency can change the way you feel about yourself. And now let's go over that source of energy that I told you about in the beginning of the video. We all have a constant repellent that if we define, we can use to give us energy and move us into action. And by that repellent, I mean your own personal hell. Yes, that sounds pretty diabolical, but I'm going to explain to you how that makes sense. For all of us, there's a scenario that shakes us to our core when we think about if we were to continue with our unhealthy and destructive habits, we could end up there. And by actually defining that state, we can have that as an image that we can pull upon when we're feeling lazy and we don't want to do anything, because we can remind ourselves that if we were to act the way that we know is wrong, we could end up there. So to define that state, you could try and imagine what would happen if you continued with your destructive habits. What would that scenario be? Would you be lonely, depressed, broke, an addict? You're the only person that would know what your personal hell could be. And the smaller the gap between your current you and the worst case scenario, the hotter the flames. These metaphorical flames can be harnessed to jolt us to action. And now that we have the competing interests, the positive energy that we are attracted towards, and the negative personal hell that pushes us away from it, we have two sources of energy that we can pull upon. So depending on the day, how we're feeling, we can harness both energies to get us into action. Because after all, discipline is not about doing stuff that we always want to do. Discipline is doing the things that we need to do, even if we don't feel like it. All right, that was it from me today. Catch you in the next one.